Good day and welcome to the Winner Circle, a circle that's getting tighter as the World Cup draws ever closer. And talking of World Cups in particular, today's guest is a person who lives, breathes, and eats the World Cup. Back in 2007, he was not yet 20, when most of us were still trying to figure out what to do with life. One Frans Ludwig Steyn, better known as Frans, literally walked up to his captain as they were deliberating as to what to do with that final penalty at the World Cup. He just pointed up at the poles. He hit that penalty, and what was 12-6 became 15-6. And by that virtue, he became the youngest Springbok winner. Well, Frans Steyn dreamt it, lived it, and we were so happy to be part of that experience. Good morning, Frans. How are you doing?
Good on you, man. Thanks for having me.
It's much appreciated, much appreciated. Frans, first and foremost, I've tracked your career since you were still at Grey. I remember actually watching you as an under 14 where you looked bigger than most. But just tell us more about your background, your life. Like, where are you from? Because we saw there was a Frans Steyn. I think you played next to Via Jonker, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. And you guys made life rather difficult for a lot of players when you grow through your rugby life at Grey.
Yeah, thanks, man. I grew up in Aliwal when we moved to Bethlehem when I was 10. And then going into high school, I only came to Grey. So, yeah, I really enjoyed rugby from a young age. And
Yeah.
luckily, it worked out for me.
Tell us more about Grey College in particular. Actually, there's a friend of mine who actually goes to Sorbonne College, actually refers to Grey College as Great College because there is a particular way of rugby the particular way that the school plays rugby that is very painful. It is very sore on the scoreboard, but they still remain sportsmen about it. They don't fight. Whenever you try fight, just point at the scoreboard and say, "Fight us on the scoreboard. Don't fight us on the field." Just tell us more about your how you got to Grey and the rugby experience and why Grey is such a good rugby school.
I don't think it's just about the rugby. I think it's about what they teach you, the manners, and all of that. You know, stuff
Yeah.
off the field, and then what happens on the field is just a translation of what happened off the field. So I really think it's more the stuff off the field that make a good school. This, the other thing is as well the boys that are there or that was there when I was there. They had more to. They influenced me more than any teacher or anybody. You look up to a guy in the chick that plays well, or geez, I
Yeah.
want to be like that when you get into grade. So I mean, uh, let's say the first proper heroes you have when you get into high school is probably the matrix or the guys playing for the first team. So
Yes.
uh, and it's like great role models. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's more the whole thing. You must look at the whole picture, not just what rugby does at grade.
And who was your hero at the time when you got to Grey?
Mine was Turkey Kroneman.
Yeah, and then you ended up playing with a lot of with guys like Bismarck Duplessis who were there just before you at Grey, but then became your teammates. Like, how was that experience where you dealt with players, where you heard of players at Grey, and then in your career they become your teammates? Like, how was that experience?
Yeah, I think that happened a lot, especially that first year you play against the Larkham and the this and the that we used to look up to. Some of the people you get to know, and then they're like proper idiots, if you can say it like that. But I mean, most of the guys are chilled and good.
France. Now moving to France, to playing in France in particular. You spent a lot of time in France, and you gained a cult following, especially for your game managing abilities and your drop goals. Just tell us more about living and playing in France. Like, how was that experience for you? Growing up in the Free State, winning the World Cup, staying in Durban with the Sharks, and then spending the bulk of your career in France. Like, how was that experience for you?
Yeah, I enjoyed France, and I think my wife also, especially our first 3 years when we were in Paris. It's an awesome city to be young in, and just easy to travel in Europe. So in that regard, Paris was awesome for me, and I would go back there any day if they asked me. Um,
Yeah.
and then Montpellier was a little bit different. The first 2 seasons was quite good, and then after that, it was difficult. They swapped coaches, and there was a thing in the team, and it wasn't the best time rugby wise. But
Yeah.
it's always nice being with your family, being able to travel, and yeah, no, I was there of all the births of my kids, watching them grew up a bit, and all of that. So I mean, I was blessed in that regard.
And how much of a role did the 2007 World Cup play in you actually basing yourself in France? I mean, you were there as a 20-year-old, and clearly the place left quite an imprint in your mind and in your heart.
Um, yeah, I think it's different. We won 2007, and then me and Joffrey, actually didn't have a place in the team at that stage just after when Peter took over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a perfect thing just to go overseas, go see what's going on in the rest of the world, go experience something new. And that's why I did it.
And then Francis, just tell us more about playing Test match rugby as a teenager. You made your debut against Ireland in 2006 at what was the last Test match at what was the old Lansdowne Road. I mean, 19-year-olds are still trying to figure out what they're trying to do with life. Yet, as a 19-year-old, you were out there playing. You played Curry Cup, and then you went from Curry Cup straight to Test match rugby. How was that experience? Just in your first year out of school, you already playing Test match rugby.
Yeah, it was awesome. There were some guys in the team that made it quite easy. Joffrey, Andre Pretorius, Ruan was there.
Yeah.
There were so many guys that made it easy. So I really enjoyed it so much. And I was young, had nothing to lose, didn't really stress because
Yeah.
what's there to stress about? You're 19 years old.
And how important is the element of youth in a World Cup squad where there's always a talk of experience, but you also need young players who, for them, that having no baggage is important because you just play and deal with what is in front of you.
No, definitely. You don't have off-field things. And off-field things is a massive part of rugby as well. People don't realize it.
Yeah.
All of us get bigger, start the business, and you have trouble off-field like anything. There's so much stuff. And then a young guy coming out of school just playing what's in front of him, like I said earlier, nothing to lose. And it's also exciting, and I think it's exciting for older guys to see young guys perform in that way.
More on that World Cup. How was that World Cup experience for you? I mean, you moved to 12, a position you've been comfortable in, considering that you moved between 10 and 12 in school, but you had to replace Jean de Villiers, who was injured after that Samoa game. Like, how was that experience for you? I mean, your first World Cup, you're already a starting 12, and you went on to play a significant role in the tournament.
Yeah, I think I was lucky to get an opportunity there. Like you said, John got injured. But like I said earlier, I went into each game, had nothing to lose, just want to play rugby, want to impress my teammates. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was easy for me. 2019 was so much different. 2019, I knew it was the end, and all of that, or I thought it would be the end. And so you stress more, and it's more in your mind. Where 2007, I always thought there would be another time, or another, I would get another opportunity, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's so different.
Mm. And what was going through your mind when John and Victor were discussing what to do, and you just walked up to them, took the ball, and pointed at the poles? Like, what was your thought process at the time? Because you shocked
You
them.
know,
They still talk about that story even until today. Every interview, they talk about that moment when they were thinking of what to do, and you just made a decision for them.
no, I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking. The youth in a man.
No, fair enough. You mentioned 2009, which is probably one of the best Springbok years in a long time. I mean, there was a British and Irish Lions series when there was that test match in Hamilton, which remained the Boxers' only win in New Zealand, one of only two Box wins in New Zealand in that decade. Like, what was so special about that particular year, 2009, from a Box perspective?
Yeah, I think we dominated the world. I think we really the All Blacks couldn't even touch us then. Like the Lions also. The Lions, I know it was tough and all of that, but like you said, we won the Lions series. I don't know. I just think the whole team and everybody, we were so synced and everybody aligned that we would be behind or something like that, and nobody would stress. We would know exactly what to do and what's going to happen after this conversion or after this try. So
Yeah.
it was definitely a special year for the Springbok that year.
And what was different about the 2011 World Cup? You're a bit older, wiser, but certainly a better player. I mean, you scored that very good try against Wales. There was that very painful game against Australia where, from a refereeing perspective, nothing went right for the Springboks. But what was that? What is different from the 2011 World Cup as compared to the 2007 World Cup for you personally?
I got injured against Samoa, so I didn't play the Australian game. I was already in South Africa, had my operation and all of that. So,
Yeah.
but for me, I think the guys were a little bit older as well in the team, all of
Yeah.
us. There were some guys that Peter took to the World Cup that had niggles. And
Yeah.
if you think about it, in the World Cup, that never really got healed or they never healed up.
Yeah.
So I think Peter thought that they would come through in the World Cup and they didn't. But mentally wise, vibe wise, whatever, there was no difference. We all thought we're going to win the World Cup, and we really started to play good rugby in that World Cup. We really, uh, I think if it wasn't for that ref, South Africa would have won that. So, but
Yeah.
we really played well in 2011 in the World Cup.
And what was different about 2019? Because you were now, you'd graduated from being the youngster in the team to being the senior statesman. Yes, there were older guys like your Beast and your Dwayne, but you were a Bok before them. You became a Bok before they even dreamed about becoming Springboks. And you were the one with that 2007 World Cup experience. Like, how different was that World Cup for you being there as the senior statesman?
Yeah, like I said earlier as well, I really stressed more in 2019 because I really thought it was the last. Like, I didn't know I'm going to play another year or I will get another opportunity or something like that. So it
Yeah.
was quite stressful. But I mean, I think everybody thought or knew that we had to make a success because the year before the Springbok struggled, or 2 years before the Springbok struggled. So everybody
Yeah.
was on the same page and the vibe. I think 2019, the vibe in the squad that we had was the best I had in the Springboks jersey. So
Yeah.
just everybody enjoyed being around everybody and wanted to be with each other, doing something great for South Africa.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
When you look at the 2023 World Cup, you just recently retired, France, but you've had you're probably one of the people who got the best insights of the teams that are currently playing at the moment, having played against them quite recently. But how open is this particular World Cup where there isn't a team that is termed as favorites?
I don't know. I think the World Cup isn't open. I think the Springboks going to win. You can see they're starting to hit their stride at the right time. And I think Ratzi and them know what they're doing. So
Yeah.
for me, I think the Springboks going to win. Other people might say, no, it's open or this or that. But for me, it's not open. So the Free State's going to win it.
And what do you make of the All Blacks? Yes, there was the Twickenham Test match on Friday, the 25th of August. But what did you make of them before that Test match? Because they did start the year very, very, very well. What have you made of them?
I think during the last couple of years since the World Cup, we played against them and we lost with 1 or 2 points where they had the ref and all of that were on their side. For me, I always knew we were better than them. Individually, we're better than them. At the moment, I think we're better than them, the players that we have. So I can't see on the day when we at our best and they at their best, and there's a neutral race that they can beat us.
What about Ireland? Because they've pretty much beaten everyone. They haven't played South Africa at home yet. They last played them in 2016. But what have you made of Ireland and their chances?
I don't think Ireland have the physique to compete with us for 80 minutes if it's in a final. I think end of year two is different for South Africa as well. When we come out of already we've played 10 or 20 games, we're tired, we just want to go on holiday, we want to go to Hermanus and all of these places, play some golf and stuff like that. So, end of the year too, it's pretty difficult. You can look at Transvaal. If they go on a June test, they hardly win because it's the end of the season. They're over it. So, you
Yeah.
can't really look into end of the year stuff regarding the southern hemisphere traveling to northern hemisphere. I don't think Ireland will beat South Africa, and I don't think they're going to beat. They can't win. I don't think they can win the World Cup.
And what about France?
I
You did
think,
mention that they remain a threat, and they're playing at home, and they've had a very good development cycle for their players.
yeah, I think if there is one team, I think it's them. Um,
Yeah.
but then who do you get on the day? Do you get the proper French, or do you get the French that don't want to play? At the moment, they got it right to get them to perform week in, week out. So it will be
Yeah.
interesting to see how they do going into the World Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the one team I'm also a little bit scared.
And why are you scared of them?
Because I
Why?
played there for long. I know them. I know when the proper Frenchies get angry or when they have those twists, the offload off over their heads and all of that, and stuff starts working for them. They a total different team. So, but when it doesn't work, they worse than Italy. They can be worse than Italy. So that's why I say the people got them to perform week in, week out at the moment. And it will be good to see how they do in the World Cup, where there's 6 or 7 games that they have to, or 8 games that they have to win. Then we will know.
Yeah. And what about England? How are you concerned about them? Because they look decent under Eddie Jones until last year, but they've seemingly now the wheels have just started to come off. Like, what have you made of England?
England is always an interesting talking point because coming to World Cups, they're actually successful and play well. So in 2007 as well, everybody wrote them off, lost the first game, and then end up being in the final. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know what's going to happen with England and Australia, but I think they will be at the World Cup, but I don't think they will win it.
You mentioned the opening game of World Cup. The 2019 group lost the opening game, and they were the first box side to lose an opening game. How important is that game? Because you guys bounced back, and I mean, the legend shows that you won every game after that, and that's every other game mattered. But Coach Jacques Nabb has made it very clear that the Scotland game is an important one. Like, what makes that opening game so special, so touching for teams?
I think it takes a little bit of pressure off if you win it, because if you lose that first game, you at knockout stages from the second week, and you can get tired and it drains you because that's all you talk about is the next game and the next game. Where if you win the first game, the pressure's off. You can take a breather. And I think that's the biggest thing. It takes a little bit of pressure off. Otherwise, you knock out rugby from your second game till you lift the World Cup.
An uncomfortable question. Officiating, France. How should players deal with it now? There's been a lot of conversations about how matches are officiated. How concerned are you about the officiating leading into the tournament?
No, I think they're going to play a massive role this World Cup, and I'm happy I'm not there. Because in the last couple of years, I've struggled with most of the decisions, so it's gonna. I think they're gonna play a massive role in the World Cup, and I definitely think the refs gonna make have the last decision in winning or losing the World Cup.
And I mean, what kind of pressure does that put on players and officials? Because I think with referees sometimes you feel that they are officiating a game that where there's so many rules, and at some point they don't know which rule to apply.
Now, definitely, I think it puts a lot of pressure on the refs, and I don't think it's fair. It's fair, but we always snap at them. But I can imagine how difficult it is to try and put all these law into a match and try and blow the best they can. But I mean, um, it's not them that makes the rules. They just need to try and enforce it to the best of their ability. And I I don't think it's the right thing to do.
And just a bit of rugby now, France. Like, how have you prepared for life? How is it important to prepare for life after rugby? Especially when it becomes important to have something that sustains you outside of the sport. So how have you navigated that particular space so far?
I think I choose the worst job after rugby, and that's farming. It takes all your money. I always laugh at Don him and he says the pipe of the dam going out is this thick and the pipe coming in is this thick. And we still love it. We still like to farm. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
And I think finally, Franz, one conversation that we've all had as rugby people is that you should have played more than 100 test matches. Do you regret not actually playing that many tests, or you're happy with the contribution that you've put out in the same way that we've seen, and we've been happy from what we've seen from you?
Um, it doesn't bother me the 100 tests, but I mean, I think I didn't play test rugby when I actually played my best rugby of my career. I was in France and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think I would have loved to play one or two or five tests just when I was playing well and at my best. I think a center is there about 28 to 32. I really, or 31. I played my best rugby of my career. But we all like we make decisions, and we have to stick to our decisions. And if you look at what I have today and where I've been, um, I
Yeah.
have no regrets on my career, and I can just thank the Lord for what He has given.
I hear you. Franz, thank you very much for making time to speak to us. You have been a much treasured guest, and we hope that all goes well in the farming circle.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me, and have a good week.
Thank you very much. And that's it for Winner Circle for now. Our esteemed guest was Frans Steyn, a double World Cup winner, someone who was a very dominant schoolboy rugby player and made sure that his potential fulfilled through what was an exciting and very enjoyable test match career. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll meet next time.